Hello, so as you can see I've got my Polish MC-1 gas mask, the extra one I've ordered in size 3, and I'm going to be doing a torture test on it. So I'm just going to check in a minute that it fits to my face and seems to pressurise, because we're going to see if it will still work after I put it through the torture test. So what the test will involve is I've got a bucket filled with water. I'm going to add lye to the bucket, also known as caustic soda or sodium hydroxide. That's going to make the temperature of the water extremely hot and extremely alkaline, about pH-14. I'll put the mask in and leave it in there for an hour. Then I will pour the water away, use chemical gloves to get the mask out, give it a good wash off, and we'll see if the mask is still intact, and if it still works, more importantly. So, let me just try the mask on to check it's still okay and functional. Right, I won't bother adjusting these top two straps, but that seems to be pressurising, so that means in theory this mask should work. I'm not going to bother doing a complete filter test and everything with it now. But anyway, let's see what happens when it's added to the lye. Right, so as you can hopefully see, there's a bucket full of water. What I'm just going to add now is the sodium hydroxide, which conveniently is in the cupboard here, so I can't get it out really with the tripod set up. Oh, there we go, just about managed it. Let's get that back into position. Right, so hopefully that you can see that there's a bucket full of water. Now I'm not going to add loads of caustic soda, I'm just going to add a fair amount, but that will do. So this stuff is very strong. So what I'm going to do is just get a ladle out and give that a stir. You can probably hear there's a bit of a reaction going on now. Just give it a bit more of a stir. Right, hopefully you can hear that that's doing something, and that should start getting very hot in a moment. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is pop the gas mask in. So in you go, MC-1, let's hope you survive the test. And he's going to be fully submerged if he'll fully sink down. Oh, I really shouldn't have put my hand in there, should I? That was a stupid thing to do. Right, quickly rinse my hands off. Right, anyway, so he's going to be sunk down in there. I'll make sure I get the chemical gloves back out for the next time I touch him. And we will come back in about, I'll probably keep intermittently cutting back, but we're going to see what starts to happen once he's had a chance to start sort of being in there with the chemical for long enough. Okay, so it's been in there about 10 minutes now, so what I'm going to do is just lift it up and have a look. Again, I should be wearing gloves really. The water's obviously gone cloudier, but so far I can't see any signs of any damage to it. So that's good, we'll pop it back in. But so far so good, but it's got a lot longer to go yet. So shove him back down in there, and then we'll have another look in a bit longer. Right, that's been in there about half an hour now, so I'm just going to get the chemical gloves on and have a look at it and then put it back in. Also give the water a bit of a stir. So far I can't really see any damage to anything. It all looks pretty good, so that's good. It's clean the talc off. Looks like there's a bit actually of marking to here. I think there was a little bit of rust on there to begin with, but it looks like that's a bit more severe now. But other than that I can't see much happening with it. So yeah, that all looks good. Let's pop it back in, and we'll check back on it in about another 30 minutes, which will have then been an hour, and we'll see if the mask is still intact or not. Right, that's been about an hour now, so I'll pop the gloves back on, we'll pull it out, we'll clean the mask off, and then we will see if it still actually works, which will be very interesting, because if it does, it means one of the cheapest masks on the surplus market is actually really tough. So let's pull it out of here. As far as I can see, no real damage or anything done to anything in there, which is good. Inside looks fine. Yeah, so that all seems good. So what I'm going to do now is pour the lye solution down the drain, which will act as a drain cleaner anyway, because that's what a lot of people use it for. And then I'll clean this mask off and we'll test it. Right, so I'm just going to leave the mask in the rack to dry. When I was rinsing it off, a little bit of colour came off of it, which I assume is just some of the green rubber that's come off if there was a bit of loose stuff, maybe talc that's liquefied and then, you know, basically rinsed out. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is let it dry so there's no risk that I'm going to get any sort of fluid that still has a bit of sodium hydroxide go into my eye or something while I inhale through it. And then we'll give it a quick test. So here we are. Now I'm actually having to film this about 2 days later than when I did the test using the lye. The reason being I needed to make sure the mask had fully dried out, because obviously if there's any water with lye still in it in a mask and then I try and do a test of it, that's going to be pretty bad. So what I'm going to do is basically get some air freshener and test it in a minute. Now let's have a look at the mask first of all. Let's take this bit off here so we can have a look at the cover underneath, and we can then determine if anything's gone wrong with it. Now I had a bit of colour drip off the mask when I actually took it out of the tub of lye, but that was about it. So the exhale valve there looks fine, can't see any problems with that. We'll find out sooner if it's actually working. Intake valve again looks fine there, no damage to it. There's no obvious damage to the mask anywhere. Maybe that little bit of rust there on the lens has actually, you know, degraded a bit more than it had prior to doing the test with the lye. But other than that, I can't really see much wrong with it. Is there anything else? Let's have a quick look. The lenses look like they've scratched up a bit, but it's hard to tell if that was just talc or something on them that's reacted. But otherwise, as you can see inside, that all looks absolutely fine. I can't really see any sort of problems there whatsoever. Straps all seem absolutely fine again. So what I'm going to do now is fully loosen the straps. Now actually, saying that, it looks like there may have been a bit of a reaction with the straps to the... Ah no, that's fine. No, I think that's more just like a talc kind of thing now, not actual lye. I was just wondering then if like the strap sort of things had oxidised, but apparently not. These aren't the easiest straps to undo, so bear with me. Right, let's get all of them fully undone again, and then I will get the mask on. I'll just undo them enough anyway that I can get the mask on. I think I must have pulled them quite tight the last time I'd actually put the mask on. Okay, so here's the mask. Let's screw in this 40mm normalised filter. Okay, that's in. Let's put the mask on. It seems to be pressurising fine. So yeah, this seems to be pressurising. The lenses have fogged up quite a bit, as you can see. Not sure if that's a reaction to the lye or if it's just because, you know, it needs anti-dim paste or a good clean on the lenses. But anyway, let's get some air freshener now and see if I can smell anything. Alright, here we go. With the light, it's a bit hard to see where the spray button is. Right,
can smell that slightly, so let me just tighten the mask up a bit more. Now the smell's gone. So yeah, the mask seems to be working. I can no longer smell the air freshener. It's pressurising fine. So yes, the Polish MC-1, I'll just take it off to talk.
Yeah, I can definitely smell the air freshener now. The Polish MC-1 has actually survived being dunked in lye for like an hour. So that's really impressive. The cheapest mask on the surplus market, one that only costs about £6 or so, has survived being exposed to a PH-14 chemical for about an hour. Which is probably more serious than any sort of chemical agent, including blister agents, would, do to the mask if you were exposed briefly to those in some sort of combat role or sort of, any sort of scenario where something like that would come into contact with you if you were going to rely on this mask. So I think this really does go to show just how well some of these surplus masks still work. Yes, obviously, if I was to choose between a mask, I would much rather have an FM12 or something in very new condition and all the stuff like that, but I think it goes to show that even some of the very cheap surplus masks, as long as they've been stored properly and they're in good condition, there's nothing to stop them working, because obviously all it really is rubber valves and like plastic and metal housing, and glass eyepieces or whatever, and all that stuff seems to be able to survive just fine. Most of these, materials, unfortunately, when they're, dumped irresponsibly in the world and things, in the oceans or whatever else, or the ground, they take, hundreds of years to break down. So, obviously it's no surprise that these masks that are 30, 40 years old or whatever are still in working order. So there you go. As said, if this video gets really popular, I might consider doing more of these in a series, testing things like the GP5 and whatever else. But I think, as this mask has passed with such flying colours, that it stands to reason pretty much any surplus mask that's built to a decent standard is going to actually survive pretty well against anything you might actually encounter as a civilian, I'd expect.